and then it will kick in.
We had all that gold, and then Pete didn't press record. You know, we've got to do it all again, Cam.
I had to get the right spot. Is it saying we're live? Is it already?
It does on my end, yeah.
It says that, and then on here it kind of shows that it's still kind of.
Oh, that's it. Yeah, we got
kind of getting itself together, and then it suddenly flicks over. So we are, properly showing up live, so everyone else can see us and say hi. So this is a little bit at the beginning. We'll just do a quick intro. So tonight we've got Cam on, who's a black belt under Master Sauer, and you're now at Leverage Jiu-Jitsu training. Is that right?
That's
formerly of Gracie Singapore.
Yeah. So I guess Singapore was a school that I started, so I'm obviously not from Singapore. I'm from Melbourne. So I ended up going over there about, it was probably about 4 and a bit years ago now. And I think Bill visited us when I think we'd probably opened for about 6 months. I can't remember exactly what month we visited Bill, but if it was 4 years ago, it was pretty close to when we opened, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm happy to come on and have a chat and spread jiu-jitsu. It's the art we all love. So yeah, this should be fun.
No, we're grateful to have you on, Cam. I think, when I met you, 4 years ago, let's just say it was 4 years, you were brown belt, just started the school in Singapore. You had a great bunch of people over there. It was like such an amazing, environment to walk into, and it really was like home from home. And like when I tell the guys, like quite how good it was, it and I said to you as well, I think when I was in Singapore, we're all learning kind of jiu-jitsu, different parts of the world, but it's the exact same language, the exact same syllabus. We knew exactly how the people were like rolling with each other, knew what moves were coming next, and to think that was happening on the other side of the world was amazing. So yeah, credit to you. You're doing a fantastic job there.
Oh, cheers, man. Appreciate it. And it was great to have you there too, man. It's a shame that you couldn't visit more frequently. But we're kind of like on the opposite sides of well, actually it's probably halfway to Australia. Hey, we're on the opposite side at the moment. but yeah, Singapore about half. Yeah, so man, it was cool.
I'm just upset that you didn't open the school about 6 years earlier, because I used to get out to Singapore 5 times a year, and I would have been a regular. But that was kind of like one of my last visits to Singapore. So it was nice. It was great to meet you.
Oh, it was great to meet you too. It's great to continue to meet you. So what were you doing at the time when you were living there were you kind of in there?
So I worked for Standard Chartered Bank. So I was over there just doing some work, visiting the offices there. I think you might have, don't know if I'm right when saying this, but I think one of your students might have worked for Standard Chartered Bank. And I vaguely remember seeing you pop up on some internal comms for my company, because you went along and you did some like some self-defense seminars or something for the company that I work for.
Yeah, so that's actually, so Ken, he's one of my mates, actually, one of my best mates, who he's from Melbourne too, but he ended up moving to Singapore and started working for them. He was working for them for quite a while in like a contract role, and then I don't remember how did I get that opportunity. I think they approached us. I don't think it was due to him, but we did some work with Standard Chartered. We did like a little, I guess like a joint exercise in reaching certain people. So they were looking to sell. I think they were selling financial products, and then they wanted to tie it in with like some activity for parents and kids. And I think we were kind of the draw point for them to be able to sell their I think it was some sort of financial security And then they were trying to like draw this parallel between that. So we went there and I gave we had like a little presentation, little lecture kind of thing. And I talked about jiu-jitsu and kids and how it's beneficial for kids with, you know, the anti-bullying aspect and the self-confidence and emotional control. So this is all, this was something that we did. And then we had like, into the next room, and then we had the kids there. So we took the kids and we were like playing games with the kids and getting them to do little exercises, setting their base and so on. And then the parents were next door and they were like, I don't know what they were doing in there, but having a party or something. But they were in there, and then the parents came back in later and joined in. That was kind of fun. So, but yeah, that was it's your organization.
Yeah, same company. I was just a strange moment. I just saw these internal comms pop up, and I saw your face all over it. And I was like, what's happened now?
No kidding.
Some ideas. Maybe I need to do something like that in the UK. But
yeah.
Yeah. I always remember actually the class that I joined in on the Saturday morning at your school. I always remember some points you made about you know, just in the warm-up, just you know, like aligning your spine and part of the warm-up, and then you took that into like a T position and like a body fold takedown and some of the T position throws. And I'm always making the same point when I come back and like with Pete and Rob. They probably get sick of me saying, "Oh, Cam made this really good point. Cam made this really good point. We try and get that in." So yeah, whilst nobody knows you and nobody's met you in the UK school, they've definitely heard your name.
Thanks.
Infamous school, yeah.
But no, it's good. It's good. So, so Cam, like, what started you on your jiu-jitsu journey? How old were you? Where did it all begin?
Jiu-jitsu. Well, gee, so I've probably been training. So I've been training since probably about 2009. So not to because I think you said you started about 10 years ago, Robert. Yeah. So it's probably around the same time. I kind of don't remember the exact date, but at the time I was training some other martial arts. It's interesting because when I was a kid, my mum didn't really want me to do martial arts. I remember one day we were driving home. I can't remember how it was. It was probably about like 10 or 12 or something, maybe 10, 11, 12. We were driving back from footy training. So my parents were amazing when I was a kid. Like they would drive me and my brother, like tennis, footy, cricket, like all of these kind of Australian or, you know, Anglo style sports, I guess. So we were going around doing that. And then I remember one day coming home from footy training, like we passed like a martial arts school in the car. And I said, "Hey, Mum, like there's a karate school right there." And I was like, "I think I really like to do karate." And she's like, "Why do you want to be violent for? Why do you want to learn how to fight? Why do you want to be violent?" And then I remember it, and it sticks in my head. And I just remember thinking back, I'm like, I don't think that's right. I don't think it's about being violent. But but at the time, it was like something that she raised. And to be fair, like we were doing so many other things at the time as well. But yeah, she had this idea that learning martial arts is about learning violence, and or at least that's how it appeared to my 10 or 11-year-old brain. But then yeah, so I didn't do martial arts when I was a kid, and then when I finished high school, I pretty much just that's all I did. But not to that extent, but like I just went out and I started exploring martial arts. I had a friend who was doing a style of karate. So I started doing that with him at his school. He was a black belt at the time there. And then, so I started doing that. And then I had another friend who I started doing the Filipino arts with, Kali the Eskrima, or Arnit, some people call it, the different styles of the Filipino ones. So we started doing that in the city at this place, and they were offering jiu-jitsu classes. And then him and and one of my other mates, they started doing jiu-jitsu classes, and they go, "Hey Cam, like, you know, why don't you come and check this out? It's pretty fun." So it was in like next door, and it was kind of like under, because we were under the train, like the train tracks. So it's like these I don't know what you call it, arches. Yeah, it was like these giant long tunnel arches, except this one was like a smaller one. I remember it was kind of small at the time, under the tunnel. So we did it under the train tracks, jiu-jitsu, and that's when we started. And I remember going in there, and I was like looking at it, and I was like, they were doing their thing, and I'm like, oh man, this looks very, you know, intimate. And and you know, the boys looking pretty close together, and that was kind of my first experience, but it was really fun. It was enjoyable. And of course, back then it was like kind of a little bit more, you get thrown into the frying pan, you know, out of the, you know, into the fryer on like the first day. And you know, I loved it, having like contact, you know, martial arts before. And yeah, so that's kind of where it started, and then it kind of just developed from there, I guess. But how did you start?
Well, a good friend of mine, you know, started training with Pete and Rob maybe 4 months before I started, and we used to travel into London on the train together. And and every now and again he would just, you know, just grab me, jump on me, and do something random, and you know, inflict some sort of, you know, unnecessary pain. And it was like, Martin, that's not nice that you do that. And the fact that you can do it quite so easily was quite disturbing. So yeah, but I think it took me to I stood up out of my seat one day, and I was taking my bag off the top rack, and he made me sit down, and against my will. And I was like, what on earth did you just do? You know, you got to stop doing these silly things. Where are you learning this? I just need to come along and give it a go. So yeah, I started my first lesson, I don't know, maybe 8 years ago now for me. And then yeah, probably 8 years actually, almost to the day, I think. And then about 2 weeks after I started, I was fortunate enough to train with that was the year that Alan Manganello came over with Master Sauer. So almost my kind of third week of training was with Master Sauer, Alan Manganello. And yeah, my mind was blown. You know, I had no idea really what was going on, but I just knew that it was something special, and I've never looked back. And I won't ever stop training if I can, you know, as long as my body holds out. And no, I'll never stop training, because, you know, we do it the right way. So yeah, forever.
Wow, what an introduction you had.
Yeah, it doesn't get much better than that, really, does it?
Yeah.
But no, Pete and Rob were training, like, you know, a couple of years, maybe longer than me. I don't know, Pete. You started. You had quite a rude introduction, didn't you?
Yeah, mine was a bit like yours, in that I was definitely thrown in the fire. So I kind of, a friend of mine, Murray, was training and fighting MMA, and he said, "Oh, come along and train at my place where I'm training for MMA, and you'll love it." And he said, you know, it'd be nice to have someone there. I was doing we were doing more sort of Thai boxing and kickboxing and stuff at the time. So I went and trained, and it just happened the guy that runs the MMA school is a guy called Dan Bazzotta, who's a second degree under Hoyce. He was a black belt at the time under Hoyce. So I went there and joined in with their MMA class. And then at the end of the MMA class, we just rolled no-gi, and Murray my friend Murray just destroyed me. And I'd been doing judo since I was a kid, so I was like, I'll be all right on the ground. Nope. And then I was really lucky in that I rolled with Dan on the first night. Like, he said, "Oh, you're a friend of Murray's, I'll roll with you as well." And it just everything, every time, like everyone's story the same, isn't it? Every direction I moved, it got worse. And I was like, I'll go that way, that'll be no, that's worse. And then I go, no, worse again. So yeah, my first night in jiu-jitsu, I rolled with a black belt, and then I was like, oh, I've got to learn this now. Then, like, everything else is pointless. If I don't know this as well, then I might as well just give up on everything else. So then I started training there and taking their jiu-jitsu classes for about 6 months, maybe, before we got hooked up with Master Sauer through the guy whose school we were training at for Thai boxing. He went to a summer camp, and Alan Baker was there.
Right.
So he was training Carly with Alan Baker, wasn't he? Was it Carly or was it Jim Fanny was training with Alan Baker and
I don't think
the Masters or whatever? And Master Sauer, I think, was there as well as the Jiu-Jitsu representative. And yeah, us a bit like Billy. Then, you know, a couple of months later, we were in a room with Master Sauer, Professor Manganello, and Alan Hopkins, just drilling some moves. And that was kind of our really early introduction. That was it. So
Wow.
cool.
All right, we're going around the corners now. I don't even know. When I look this way, I'm not. Am I looking at Peter?
No, you're looking at Bill as far as I'm concerned. But
Now you're looking at Rob on my screen. I think everyone's getting it different.
all different.
Yeah, who's down there?
Don't look that way. That looks terrible.
there's nothing good.
Don't tell everyone that what you've called him.
I call him Robin. Is that Robin? So Robin, how'd you start, man?
I think like when I was 15, 14, something like that. I went to like a local kickboxing club, just run by someone who turned up to be like a good friend. Like I haven't seen him for a few years, but we got quite close. But yeah, I did kickboxing for a couple of years, enjoyed it. Went to university, did a few other bits and pieces, you know, like just in and out. As it turns out, I didn't know this till many, many years later, but I did a bit of jiu-jitsu there with someone who got their blue belt from Master Sauer, just randomly. He went out to Utah and trained with him, you know, back in the day, late 90s. As I say, I only found that out about 2 years ago. And then when I finished university, I didn't have much else going on. I kind of came home, I'd got a job. I was like, well, I've got loads of spare time. So I started training loads. But like Pete, we were doing a lot of kickboxing, Thai boxing, that type of thing, bit of sort of Carly, JKD, you know. And then as it happens, you know, same as Pete, we kind of said, oh, we want to do some jiu-jitsu. We got the jiu-jitsu program kind of going and then didn't really look back.
Yeah, right. So where you trained jiu-jitsu prior to your school? Where did you train prior to your school?
We were teaching for the guy at the other academy doing all the other arts, and we said to him, because Pete had been to this other club, we said, oh, you know, we really could do with having a jiu-jitsu program. So then he went away and kind of investigated it, and that's how it all kind of got teed up.
Oh, nice!
So
That's
we
awesome.
were running his jiu-jitsu, you know, program right from the offset, weren't we, Pete?
Yeah, it was a bit of a weird one because we didn't really have. Obviously, we had access to, like I say, I was training with Dan, who was a hoist black belt, but it, like distance wise, it was difficult. And then, so yeah, Rob and I just started training together for a couple of years.
Right.
And then the program sort of set up after we met Master Sauer and, you know, the two Allens, and then
And
the double act that won. So yeah, we trained with them. And then Alan was coming over. He was coming over quite a lot, wasn't he? Quite a few times a year.
What was it, I think?
Yeah, Master Sauer was over every year. And so we were just training, going through like everyone else, like the DVDs and stuff. And Rob and I would drill and train. And yeah, it just kind of grew from there, kind of organically, really, within that club. And then when the owner decided he no longer sort of was going to be as part of the association, that's when we said, well, we're definitely staying with the association. And just carried on from there, really.
Yeah, right.
So Cam, when did you come across Phil and leverage jiu-jitsu? Was that your first experience of jiu-jitsu, or did that come later?
No, that came a bit later actually. So when I started training in the city in Melbourne, so like the CBD area. And I was studying at the time, so I was at university, and so I was training there, and then I was training at so the school that was connected to that place, because that place wasn't a pure jiu-jitsu school. It was called Melbourne Martial Arts, and they had a lot of different martial arts going on. They had like kickboxing, boxing, Kyokushin as well, and they had the Kali at the time, and they had jiu-jitsu. So I was training there, and the affiliate association who was in charge of the jiu-jitsu program there was an association called Peter the Beans. And then they had some other associations. So he's sort of connected to Gracie Baja in a way.
Okay.
So we had, there was some other places as well that were connected to him. So I was sort of training in the city. And then because I was a student and, you know, I had a bit of time on my hands, I've spent more time training jiu-jitsu than I did studying. But we would go like from in the afternoon. So we'd do like a lunch class there. And then me and a couple of friends would go down to sometimes the St. Kilda branch, which is a bit of a ways away. And then sometimes we back it up again in the evening with another one in like another area. But this is like not every day. This is probably a couple of times a week that. And then we had the classes, just sometimes we just do one here and there. But we were doing that. And then at one point, like I went overseas, I came back because I actually went over to do an exchange in North Carolina. However, I never met Mark Cooper, who I know is there now. But well, I wish I had it, man. That would have been a great experience too. But I trained a bit over there at another school, and then I came back. And when I came back, that school had changed its affiliation to, it was another one. It was Sia Polista. So I was training there a little bit at the others because I had friends at them all, and then I got a job in the outer suburbs. And then how I met Phil was like one day. So this is I was probably a blue belt at the time. I think it was like 2 or 3 years in. And then I was walking home from my job. Well, not walking home. I caught the train and then I was walking to the bus stop to go home. And then as I was walking by as well, I noticed, like, I saw that there was a jiu-jitsu class going on. And I think I kind of knew there was one in the area. And it was like in this little cupboard under the stairs. So basically it backed up on a shopping center. And at the back of the shopping center, like down the bottom under these stairs, there was like this little glass window. It was like a little cupboard under the stairs. And I saw my Phil in there, my instructor, and at the time. And he's like, I don't know if you guys have seen Phil or met Phil before at any camps or anything.
I've seen pictures, but never met him in person. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I know. I think I've seen some pictures of you guys in Brazil, or no?
No. One day.
I hope so. One day. I've never been either. But yeah. So Phil, anyway, he's like got like a not that big. He's got a bushy beard, like a black beard. Got like his eyebrow, does his eyebrow thing, and you know, he's a bigger guy. He looked kind of scary at the time. It was like Leonidas. You know, I looked in. I was like, ooh. This looks like it could be a little bit like rough in here, but anyway, like I gave it a try and I went in there, and then what I experienced was something interesting because I trained with Phil. You know, I was a blue belt and I had this idea. I was like, you know, I think I have a feeling about what's going on. Turns out I didn't have no idea, but I'm not discrediting previous experiences that I had, but when I went in there, it was like I trained with him and it just felt like I was drowning myself. I would do something and then I'd get countered. And it was kind of like, my experience at the time was, you know, you'd have like something that you were good at and something he was good at. And then you're both kind of trying to find your way into those areas that you were good at. But then what I felt was he was just letting me do what I do. And I was just getting countered and getting messed up or getting tapped here, tapped there. And it was like, it wasn't like there was that fight, if you know what I mean, but like that resistance. I didn't feel that. I felt structural resistance, but I didn't feel that that effort that you feel sometimes when you're training with people that I experienced in the past with other people, you know, whatever level. So yeah, it was just beautiful. And I was like, man, I want to learn this. And he was talking about the self-defense aspect of jiu-jitsu, which is something that hadn't really been spoken of so much in my previous experiences. Yeah. You know, it was all kind of like the grappling iron and so on. And that's what I fell in love with. So I started training there out of convenience. And then I ended up, you know, that ended up being my life there. And it helped me in so many ways. And, you know, I love Phil for it. And it's an amazing experience and I wouldn't take it back. And now we're training not out of a cupboard under the stairs anymore. We have like an academy, another location, but that was probably maybe about 7 or 8 years ago. So, but yeah, that's how I met my.
A lot of good things come from cupboard under the stairs, right? That's where Harry Potter started. So, you know,
right.
Great stories that come from cupboards under the stairs.
Yeah, well, he's from your neck of the woods, isn't he?
He is, yeah.
He's not real. Not real.
Oh, he is. He is. For many people, he's real. No, that's awesome. I mean, yeah, we've not been fortunate enough to meet Phil, but no, he's a recognizable character. I think, you know, you don't forget him when you see him on social media. And I think, is it Phil that's on the video of with Master Sauer when he's in Greece? I think it is.
That's,
yeah.
Got thing on.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was in Greece. Man, Greece is amazing. I wasn't there at that time, but I went last year. Man, it's such a beautiful camp. Like, it's so picturesque, so beautiful. Weather's perfect. Yeah, but man, if you ever get the chance to pop over to Greece when he's doing one of these camps, you should check it out because it's a beautiful experience. Like, it's a holiday and then you train as well.
Is that a Phil camp? Is it? Phil.
It's a Phil. Yeah, so his Greek background, so it's on a little island that his family is from. So it's called Lefkada, and it's kind of up. It's about a 5-hour bus ride from Athens, so it's a bit of a trek to get there, especially if you're coming in like from probably the UK or Australia. It is definitely.
Yeah.
Everywhere's far to get to from Australia. It's like the arse end of the world.
No, that's New Zealand. I said, no, that's New Zealand, right?
You're good, aren't you, man? You got it.
But no, well, Greece is a lot easier for us than many of the other locations that some of Master Sauer's black belts train at. So yeah, maybe we can get out there one day. But yeah, we'll look out for that.
I think we're still on the blacklist for Greece. I don't think we're allowed to go there yet. They don't want us. There yet.
That's true. Air bridges. We're not allowed to travel anywhere. 2-week lockdown wherever we go. 2-week lockdown whenever we come back.
Yeah.
We're about to start crying now, Cam. We've not done jiu-jitsu properly for 3 months now.
You poor guys.
Properly.
Man, how's the situation there? Like, with because I haven't actually spoken to anybody in the UK about what the experiences are with this whole virus situation. Do you guys feel it? Do you see it? Do you know?
Yeah, well, there's a very high death rate in the UK compared to many other kind of countries in the world, but certainly countries across Europe. So yeah, it's definitely taken its toll. I think the majority of us, are unaffected by it. I think there might be a couple of scenarios that are quite close to home, but yeah, thankfully not massive. But no, it's worrying, and yeah, they've locked everything down. So we're unable to train. The one bright thing that comes out of it, though, Cam, I mean, we always have to look for for good things. Is the kids. The kids program's working brilliantly on Zoom. So the kids are training like with either their siblings or a parent, and my children train as well. So and Robin's got a little girl that trains. So like you were saying just before we went live on YouTube, you can see the progress that your other half, your partner's making. Is it Val? Sorry, did I get it? Is it Val?
Yeah, Val.
Yeah.
Valerie.
So the progress you're seeing in Valerie, we're seeing in the kids, and they are coming on leaps and bounds, and the online program for them is working really, really well, to the point where I think when we actually get back to normal classes, I think the parents are going to be like lining up on the side of the mats to continue joining in, think they're really enjoying it. So yeah.
That's it. That's grouse. That's one of the ways like you get the parents involved too. Like in terms of training. I know from my personal experience at our academy in Singapore, a lot of parents, a lot of our adults who joined because their kids were involved first, and then they saw it, like they were asking some questions about it, and then there was other parents sitting on the side who were also training, so they would like talk to them as well, and that's how you kind of get the parents in, and then the whole family's training, which is amazing. To have like little groups of little families. We had, what do we have? We had a lot of families. We had one family that was like the two daughters, and mom and dad both trained. There was another one, two daughters. I don't know, a daughter, a son, mom and dad both trained. There's like heaps of them. There's heaps of parents and kid groups. And it's pretty cool. You see them all in their gis when there's like a little like graduation sort of ceremony. They're all there. They're taking photos together. It's fantastic.
I don't think we've got any mums and dads training with kids, but we've got like one mum and the children, or dad and the children. But yeah, one day we'll get everybody on the mat. Apart from your family, yeah. Sorry, Rob. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
The good thing is, as well, you were saying before about like how do we find a way back, and how do we get like the kids so they can train and be in contact, but we can't be in contact with them. Or then I think because of doing the Zoom things, when we restart classes, the parents can come and still be the bodies for the kids. So we're just doing what we were doing on Zoom, but face to face. So they come in and be the bodies for their own kids whilst we can't quite interact in the same way. So hopefully, crossed, that's the way to that we'll sort of get back to get everyone back in person, kind of thing.
Yeah.
I don't know how we're going to stop 4 and 5-year-olds from trying to double leg takedown Pete though. It seems to be their favourite pastime. They genuinely like tackle the giant. They love taking Pete down.
I don't doubt it, man. Like I know like from in Singapore too, like they're just all over you, man. They're like grabbing your legs. You have like 2 of them on your legs. Real spider.
So how did Singapore start then, Cam? Where did that, how did that come about?
Yeah, so so there was a student here who I trained with in Melbourne. One of Phil's students, another one, and he moved to Singapore. He ended up moving there, and then he tried a lot of jiu-jitsu places there. He tried quite a number, and he didn't really like the vibe, the culture, the program. And so he talked to Phil, and he's like, "Hey man, I'm thinking of bringing somebody over, or like, are you interested in coming over to teach here?" He was trying to get Phil to do it at first, and then he's like, "Do you have anybody who'd be interested?" So Phil asked around, and then at the time I was teaching jiu-jitsu as well, kind of part-time. I would think I was a purple at the time. I was looking at my brown when this was all being discussed. And then, so I was teaching at another school, and I was doing like other part-time work at the same time. And then Phil asked me, and I said, "Oh, it's an interesting idea." And I also had a Singaporean partner at the time, a girlfriend from Singapore. So, it all kind of came together in that way. And so anyway, Phil and I went over there. We had a chat to Hobart is his name, and one of his friends, Johan, 2 great guys who were really interested in getting a program off the ground there. And then we were sort of on the edge. I went back, I put together like a business plan for it. And then so they ended up going for it. I went over, we started the school. We started with a couple of students, and then we ended up, by the time I left, there was over 100, but there was like probably, there was definitely over 100 between adults and kids. And so it was great, it was a really enjoyable process, and I wouldn't take it back for anything. Probably about 120-ish at some point there. But yeah, so that's kind of how it started. And then, I just started feeling like I had to come back home. I needed to, spend more time with my family. And yeah, so then I ended up coming back with my partner Val at the time. So this is like 4 years later. And yeah, we ended up here, and now we're both here. So yeah, that's kind of like how Singapore started. But yeah, I guess that's yeah, it was a great.
I remember meeting Hobart actually when I was over. He was
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's him. He's the catalyst, I guess, or the start.
And is he still there and training now?
He's not actually. So he moved to Japan. So he's moved around a bit. Yeah, he moved to Japan. I think at about the start of the third or fourth year maybe. So he ended up moving to Japan, and he lives there now with his wife, 2 boys. So I think between the time that you saw him and the time he left, a lot had happened for him. Like he ended up getting married. So he went from, I think, being a single bachelor to married, 2 kids.
Wow. And moved countries as well. That's a big.
Yeah.
Is he going to try and tempt you over to open a school in Japan now? Is that the next thing on the cards? Or
yeah, we laugh. You know, he was looking at it at one point. So, but yeah, but I'm happy here. I'm happy in Melbourne. It's great to be back closer to family, and yeah, I think I'm back where I need to be. So,
that's good.
So yeah, that's it for me there. But
someone still running. Did someone take over and is still running the Singapore one?
Yeah. So we have another guy there now. So he's a guy who got his black belt from Tiago Bertoni. I'm not sure if you guys have met Tiago before.
Yeah, I met him before in Glasgow a couple of years ago.
Yeah, right. Yeah, because I remember he went over there. Yeah, he was there, right? Yeah. So yeah, I got his black belt from Tiago and Master Sauer. So his name's Vlad. Really nice guy, and yeah, so he's heading up the program over there now. Of course, it's a bit difficult. It's been difficult for him as well these last few months, as it is been for like all of us in the community. So I'm hoping that things start to look out better for him, for the schools everywhere around the world at the moment. You know, he just moved there as well with his family from Kuwait. He was teaching in Kuwait, so it's a bit of a shock to the system. You know, with expectations, and then, you know, things change and we have these restrictions. So yeah, all the best to him too. But yeah, great guy. And if you're in Singapore again, check it out. Go down.
No, definitely. If ever I'm sent that way with work, I'll be looking them up for sure. I'm right in thinking, Cam, did you you do the logos, right? So did you design the logo for Alan as well, the Louisville?
Yeah. Hey, there's that one there. There it is. That's the logo.
Becoming useful 1 week.
You know, it's interesting. So that's yeah. So I designed that one for Alan, and yeah. So yeah, that was something that I was doing before I started jiu-jitsu. I was doing a little bit of that on the side too. I was doing some like graphic design, artwork stuff for people. And yeah, so that was a logo that he was looking at making a logo for himself. And we did a lot of work on that logo going back and forth. And I'm glad it worked out for him in the end, because yeah, I see it on all this stuff. And actually our Singapore logo doesn't look too dissimilar to that. Hey,
very similar,
yeah. So because he had the L, right, for Louisville, so, and that was kind of around the outside, forming half a triangle, and then I was thinking for Singapore, so I ended up sort of doing like an S within the same AG. And but yeah, that was quite a while ago now, and man, I haven't seen Alan for a long time. The last time I saw Alan was in Australia. I think that was the first time I met him too. The first and last time. That was I don't even know when that was. It's probably at least 6 years ago. Probably 5 or 6 years ago. How's he doing?
Yeah, he's good. I mean, I can't think. It's been a while now. Is it November when we saw Alan last?
November. Yeah.
Yeah, November. So November 19, we saw him last. We see him a couple of times a year at least, and yeah, he's on good form when he's over. I feel sorry for him. He's obviously a policeman in America at the moment. It's an unenviable task. So
Oh my
yeah,
gosh.
stay safe, Alan. If you're listening to this one, make sure you stay safe, Mister.
Please take care. Heaps of respect for you there. Oh my gosh. It must be a really difficult time.
Yeah, for sure.
At least in a way though, he's doing all the Gracie survival tactics now because he's head of training for Louisville. So at least they're getting some good training and learning it properly rather than anything else that seems to be going on.
Yeah. Yep.
So yeah.
Does he teach you guys? Does he do like some work with police there in the UK as well, or
Not at the moment.
Not with the force directly. I mean, we've got a few members of the club that are police officers, and I think they're really appreciative of the 4 or 5. I think they're really grateful for the snippets and the extra details that Alan can give them, and they're quite often coming into class, reminding us of what they use and how they use it, because they're getting to use it on a much more regular basis than the majority of us. And we've also got some good friends that come over from Iceland that are police officers as well. So yeah, the police officers at our school, they're very well catered for. They've got some good tips from Alan and from Haldor and Johan when he's over as well. So yeah. But they don't do anything official with them. But no, we've got some very well skilled police officers on the beat over here now.
Oh, that's awesome. That's grouse.
Yeah, I don't know what it's like over there, but like over here, it's a bit of a weird setup in terms of the training and stuff. That it's they don't really let anyone in. It's kind of, they've got their program and it's set up that way, and that's which is fair enough. But that's they don't really let a lot in. So
yeah, I hear it. I'm not sure about the situation here. I haven't really been involved with that too much. Like when Alan was out here, he ran like a policing workshop, but he allowed some of us to come in and sit in on it too. I think at the time he might have been running. He wasn't running the combatives, well, not the combatives one, the Gracie one, the Henna Hero. He was running his own thing, his own tactics one, the TAC program. I think it was under the Pedro Sauer Association. And then we had a few police out to that, but I think it's more of an individual pursuit. If you, yeah,
you have to seek it out yourself rather than it be prescribed.
Yeah. But,
so yeah, go on, Pete. No, you first, mate.
Cam was talking to us off. We were chatting about setting this up, about some of the stuff you've been doing online for people.
Yeah, right.
Going. Do you want to tell people about that? Sounds pretty cool.
Yeah, it's just it's just a couple of programs I put together. So I was just trying to think about how we can keep everyone engaged while we're not on the mat, because as you kind of know as well, is if there's people who take a protracted period of time off, like I feel like the likelihood of them returning becomes less the longer they take off. So I was thinking, like, what can we do to try and keep everyone together and to keep people engaged? So this is where it kind of started. Of course, like I was working for Phil at the time, and then like I didn't have work because of that as well. So I've been doing other work outside, and I've been actually working in a supermarket at the moment. But I also put together these courses to kind of give the same experience, sort of helping like people from Singapore, from Sydney, and a couple of other places that were interested. Just keeping students engaged. There is like, of course, a cost on the course, but the thing that I was trying to do is trying to make it accessible for people, trying to make sure that they can do it in their own home if they don't have a training partner. And then also in order to like keep the engagement, if anybody out there has like knows people or know of someone who, you know, they can't afford a financial commitment to jiu-jitsu, to their academy, whatever at the time, just let me know and I can help them out. I'm happy to help them out and help keep them engaged, so that like when we come back, we're more likely to come back with everybody, you know, with all of our training partners. You know, like Master Sauer like always says about the tide rising, and when the tide rises, all the boats rise together. So this is that was something that I was thinking about, and then the way that I kind of wanted to put it together was in a very structured way, in a way that I did this a bit in Singapore too, with how I ended up teaching the classes with this, of course, system. But it's a lot of people talk about system, and it is a system. Jiu-Jitsu is obviously a systems-based approach to fighting, as people have heard Danaher say and so on. But I kind of wanted to take the philosophy aspect and this philosophy kind of, which underpins the strategy of jiu-jitsu, and then I kind of use that strategy to kind of direct the learning process, so that people kind of get a feel for how what they're learning kind of is used within the context. How what they're learning fits within the context of the strategy and the art of jiu-jitsu and the philosophy, which is that counterattack philosophy, the defensive philosophy. And so it's kind of about laying out their learning in that way. And that's kind of the way that I like to think about jiu-jitsu. It's something that I felt helped me in my journey, and how, you know, it's helped me to be more efficient with my learning of jiu-jitsu and approach to positions. And so, yeah, I just was going to share that because I had some interest from where I taught before, and then some places around Phil's connections as well. But yeah, if anyone's interested, if you know of anybody who's fallen on hard times because of this virus, you know, just let me know. I'm happy to help you out. If you're interested in the program, you can hit me up too. But really, we're just looking at in depth at certain positions, and you don't have to have a training partner at home, right?
Am I right in thinking, Cam, that the first like module or the first program that you put together is mount? Is that right?
Yeah, I put together mount. So we did a mount systems course, and then basically the outline of that program was, so we looked at the mount as a position. The reason I chose the mount was because I was trying to think, how can we get people at home to be able to do it when they don't have a training partner, because the majority of people don't have training partners at home, you know, for various reasons.
Yeah, I can't get my wife involved at all. You know, she looks at Robin and Claire training together, and she says, "Bill, don't get any ideas, no chance. Don't go there."
How fast is that? But yeah, no, for sure. Yeah. So a lot of people don't have that you know, that the same situation there. So when we had that, so I was thinking, it's like, okay, how do we make jiu-jitsu in an online environment more accessible for people, understanding the nature of the online environment and what products are already out there, and how can we try and bring the same experience of the academy to the online space. And so the program basically is laid out in a way that, well, I was thinking about, how do I do this? So how can we do this? So we had to make it accessible for people, had to be accessible for people who don't have a training partner. We had to give them options for, like, you know, think about ideas for training space, if they don't have mats and so on. And then, so the first part was to make it accessible for everyone to do. And then it was like, okay, how do we structure the content? So I put together this. So the way I'd like to think about jiu-jitsu is, and when I explain it to somebody who's kind of learning it for the first time, I find this a little bit helpful, is, so like I said, we're going to start with the philosophy. The philosophy underpins the strategy, and then the strategy will direct our learning. So the philosophy of jiu-jitsu. So when we look at jiu-jitsu, we have to think about, okay, how do I place the philosophy of jiu-jitsu into the sort of spectrum of different martial arts or different martial arts strategies and approaches? So generally we have two categories of martial arts. This is a huge generalization. So we're not casting judgment on how any martial art approaches, combat. This is a huge generalization. Just bear that in mind. But generally speaking, we can have two sort of main styles of approaches to dealing with the problem of somebody who has greater physical resources than us. So we have the hard arts. So the hard arts are being arts in which involve generally hardening, sharpening, building our bodies, and the mechanics involved to deliver and receive impact. And of course, the tactics involved in order to do so. So that would be like the hard arts. And then we have soft arts, in which jiu-jitsu falls into this category. And it takes the assumption, of course, and you guys all know this, that the other person, has greater physical resources. And because I assume that I'm never going to be stronger, faster, more athletic than that other guy, we have to approach combat in a very energy efficient directive or direction, where we assume there's this disparity. And so when we assume there's this disparity, we now need to make sure that we're very efficient with the use of our energy. But a lot of martial arts talk about efficiency. Of course, the reason we train a combat art is in order to be more efficient and effective at combat. But how jiu-jitsu approaches it is, because I assume this guy's bigger, I need to make sure that I apply a defensive mindset. So I need to make sure that, victory is impossible for that guy. And of course, you have Grandmaster Elliot saying, if you cannot lose, you can only win. So there's an element of survival to the strategy of jiu-jitsu. Mm-hmm. So we have to, our intention is to survive, right? That's that primary intention. And then we have the how. So the how comes now into a little bit more into how do we survive? How do we end up overcoming somebody who's bigger, heavier, and stronger, and faster, and uglier, and all of those things? So when we have this, now we're going to be thinking, okay, if you look at the word jiu-jitsu, so this tells us a little bit, it can tell us a little bit about the how jiu-jitsu works. So do you guys know what jiu-jitsu means?
Yeah, I'm getting an education. I don't know. I'm being honest.
You guys know, Robert, like the Jiu and the Jitsu part?
Yeah, the gentle science, the gentle art.
Yeah, that's it. I like gentle science. That's nice. The gentle art, or the gentle science, the soft art. So the Jiu part of the Japanese contraction or the character Jiu kind of refers to being, well, people translate it as gentle or soft, usually. And then the Jutsu part is art, technique, science, system of techniques, and so on, kind of how it worked, like the overarching kind of grouping. But when you look at the word Jiu, if you think about it like this, and when you explain it to most people, Jiu-Jitsu is the gentle art, right? So we're assuming somebody's bigger, heavier, stronger, uglier, harder, this really, really strong, hard, opponent. And then it's like, oh, but Jiu-Jitsu is the gentle art. So how do you be gentle and then beat somebody who's hard and tough? It almost seems like it doesn't work. You're like thinking it's like two polar opposites. It's like, oh, I'm going to be gentle and I'm going to overcome that guy. But it's interesting because like when we keep studying, and you guys of course know this because we all love the same art together, but when you keep like looking at the literature as well, and you read, have any of you read like Jigoro Kano's book? It's called Mind Over Muscle.
No.
No, I haven't actually.
I don't know.
All right,
I'm gonna get my phone. I'm gonna make some notes, Cam. What was that one?
So it's called Mind Over Muscle. It's
Mind Over Muscle.
Mind Over Muscle, and it's a book by Jigoro Kano, who's the founder of judo, and of course he's like one of the greatest jiu-jitsu masters of all time. Some would posit even the greatest in terms of his influence on everything. But so when he talks about his book, it's very like philosophical and talks about how he kind of read jiu-jitsu and kind of developed judo. He talks about two principles. So one is Seiryoku Zenyo, which is maximum efficiency. and that's using our mental, physical, and emotional energy in the most efficient way possible to overcome our goal. And the other one is jitta kyoi, which means mutual benefit, which is that same idea of the boats and the tides rising. So that was the two main principles of the art that he kind of practiced. When we read some works like his and we listen to other masters like Master Sauer and whoever else that you've had the privilege of learning from, is so that Ju aspect, it doesn't really mean gentle in the same way that it means to be like, very soft and meek, but it means to be flexible or pliable or adaptive. So adaptive is kind of the definition of the Ju part.
Mm-hmm.
So when we translate it like this, it tells us a little bit more about how Jiu-Jitsu works. It's the adaptive art, right? As opposed to just being gentle. And when we think about it as the adaptive art, now when we look at the same problem and we're surviving was the first aspect, we have to adapt. It's adapting, which means, again, it's related to the survival. Adapting requires, to adapt to something, what do we require? We require input. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So there has to be input in order to adapt to whatever that input is. So it's looking at counterattacks. So Master Sauer, you guys have all heard the thing that he uses about the mouse and the mouse trap?
In the trap pit.
Yeah, so it's exactly like that. Like what I'll let's see, maybe some people at home haven't heard about it. So maybe, Rob, what's that mousetrap idea?
You never see the mousetrap chase the cheese. Hang on. Yeah, whichever way around it.
Have you ever seen the mousetrap chase the mouse?
I know it's late over there, huh? But that's it. That's the idea, right? So the mouse is a lot more athletic than you are, right? It runs up walls.
Oh.
So,
I've been off the mat a while.
But that's it. So then we use that same idea. It's a counterattack strategy. So defensive, you understand that there's certain reactions or certain actions that the opponent is likely to take given the scenario, and then the trap closes. So this is the adaptive aspect. So we survive first, then we learn to adapt to the behaviors that we understand and we premeditate or likely to experience. And then we use that adaptation, that adaptive, mindset or process to then secure a more dominant, safe position or submission. So this is kind of how I ended up sort of thinking about it at one point in time. And then I started structuring all of my positions around this idea and teaching from this, because it kind of helps, I feel, to introduce somebody to this sort of process. So I kind of did like a little acronym. It's just a shitty little acronym that I use to help students remember, but it's like SYS as part of the first part of system. So we have first, make a safe position, which is survive. So for you guys at home, like might just be the T position might be that safe position, right? In whatever the context is, of course. So it could be like close guard with like, the stage 1 controls. And then from those positions, we need to now understand that there's a safe position, and then we need to identify the likely behaviors of somebody to that position. And once we can identify those, we can then yield, which is the Y, yield to win, Master Sauer says, yield to and utilize those behaviors through our understanding of the principles of jiu-jitsu, leverage, distance management, body mechanics, movement, weight distribution, etc. We can utilize those principles in our yielding to these reactions to the safe position to now give us a more dominant position, a submission, or disengage from our opponent, whatever our goal is. So SYS, and that's kind of the same system or the same method repeats itself continually until submission in like the grappling sense. And so when I started doing this program, that's sort of how I was looking to lay it out, to help people kind of put the philosophy and the strategy into the content that they're learning in this way that's kind of helpful for them, just to think, oh, SYS or system, this is the process: safe position, identify responses, and yield and utilize, and then secure the next safe position. So when I did that, and then it was kind of, that's how I kind of ended up structuring the course, to try and bring the philosophy, the strategy, and the moves together. And then that's kind of how we end up having these updated little flow charts week, where we're focusing on a safe position, and then we're looking at possible counter or possible reactions to it, and how we're going to, respond or utilize the reactions. And then that's sort of the first position. We looked at a very specific style of mount, which everybody in the association is like largely familiar with. It's even on like the little Pedro Sauer patch, the little guy with the frog foot and the hand in the collar, or I think he's like punching or something in the logo. But we were looking at that position, and we're looking at all the different sort of things that can happen from there, or a lot of the major ones. And that's how we sort of covered. So each week, everyone would get a new diagram updated after the Zoom class for the content that we covered of the week, and it would have little summary videos within clickable ones in that little flow chart to help them practice at home, so that they could retain the information easier. They could follow along by like clicking on, they just have like this screen there with a PDF with the clickable links, and then they'd be able to kind of follow along while they're practicing on their own as well. And then the other thing with the online program is how do you guys, you got to try and keep engagement with people too. It can't just be, I don't know, have you guys felt it before? If you've downloaded instruction or like bought instructionals, and then you might watch a little bit and then you don't touch it forever.
Yep. Yeah, no, there needs to be a little bit of live, right? There needs to be a real engagement.
Yeah, that's right. And so it's like, how do you bring that back to the online space? Because we know that if we just shoot out videos to people, it can be hard for them to have the discipline to be able to do it. I don't have the do it either. Like, I've bought instructionals, and then like I've watched like a lot of it, but like for a lot of them, but some of them it's just like you watch a bit here or there, just leave it, you put it on the shelf, and watch the whole thing. Life gets in the way, and you got all these other things going on. But how do we increase the engagement? So that's when we started. I was thinking, it's like, how do we do this? So we have the Zoom class, and then I also now put on another session, which is like a group drilling session. So we'll get together once a week for like half an hour, and we'll just drill out the content for the week and the previous weeks, just to kind of get reps in, build a sweat together, kind of try and create a little community that supports each other while we can't be together on the mat. And then also thinking about jiu-jitsu. Go back.
For those people that don't have a body, like a partner to kind of train with, what are you getting them to drill out on? What are they using?
So you can buy like so there's this website called xxdolls.com, and no. You have kids watching this? I don't know.
That again?
I said, do you have kids who are watching this program?
No, Robin wants that link again. He wants the .com. What was that? He needs to add to his collection, Cam.
Oh my god.
So no, listen. Honestly,
maybe you could introduce us to your collection, Rob. That'd be a nice little way to Zoom session. I've talked enough now, everybody. We're gonna now get taken through Robin's collection of assorted.
No. So listen, Cam, honestly, the passion coming through on my screen when you were talking about that system is amazing. And it's, one of the questions that we've been asking many of the other black belts that we talk about is around like concepts of jiu-jitsu. But we don't need to ask you that question, because you've just kind of given us a kind of insight into how you kind of look at jiu-jitsu. But I guess is the question, maybe, you know, for people that are starting out and that don't have a massive vocabulary, you know, at what point, you know, what advice can you give them that gets them from moving to, you know, being in a position, searching in their mind for a move? At what point does that switch to being like searching for a move to kind of like just grasping those concepts of like what you were talking about, you know, based on an input you automatically have a reaction? You know, how long does that take? Can you give them any clue?
No, it's a great question. It can be, so if we think of it, we assume that let's assume somebody's coming from like no knowledge of jiu-jitsu. So in terms of like when I think about introducing to them, something that helps me to introduce them to jiu-jitsu is, so the first thing is, whenever somebody walks in the door, you want to find out about them. Don't think about jiu-jitsu. You want to think about like, how do I understand this person, and, you know, try to give them a benefit, you know, that they might be looking for in their life. So, and it's always the personal connection you want to look for. And this is the thing that's so true of Master Sauer, that it's incredible. He has like a way of connecting to people, and listening to them, and you know, he has, not only does he have that presence and that aura about him, and it's not because he's good at jiu-jitsu that he has that either. It's, of course, it's developed and shaped his character, but he has something different that I haven't experienced from pretty much every other instructor like that I've experienced in the Gracie chain. I don't know if I'll get in trouble for saying that. I don't think so. It doesn't matter. I don't care.
No one listens.
You can say whatever you want on this one. No one listens anyway. No.
But how do you guys, like, I'm sure we'll get back to the question, but how do you guys feel about that? Like, you've experienced Master Sauer. What was your experience of him when you first?
He's just super charismatic, isn't he? He's just super charismatic. He makes everybody, he's got those kind of social skills that most people try really hard to learn and be able to use, and he's kind of got it naturally, that he just remembers little details about people. So even after he's seen them the first time, he's got a little detail that he can say to them the next time he sees them. He's good at remembering who people are, and yeah, you get that warmth of reception every time you see him, and you think, he won't know me, or, you know, come and say hi, or and he does, doesn't he, to everyone?
He's special. He makes everybody feel special. I think about it like in a self-defense kind of sense, and I think, you know, he's obviously very skilled at how to kind of disarm somebody in a martial sense. But equally, you know, like if you're meeting somebody and you might be a little bit fearful, you might have a natural reaction, and he's just so good at disarming that, you know, or eliminating that fear. And he just makes everybody feel comfortable, which is, you know, that's the best way to stop any sort of conflict, right? Is just to make everybody happy, make everybody chilled, and he does that effortlessly.
That's it. He disarms the doors to your heart, really.
But he's, as well, his sort of, I don't know what the right word is really, like, it's his generosity with his time, but also his kind of, that manner. I mean, I don't imagine, and again, this might get me in trouble, so we'll share the trouble. I can't imagine many, and I class him, like you were saying, within that Gracie chain of being, you know, as important as any of the other Gracies are. There's not many others that would have come onto our podcast like 3 episodes in to come in and talk to us, and yet he was straight. Sorry, episode number 5. Robin's the numbers man. So there wouldn't be many people that would come on and do that to support it, or, you know, to just come on for the love of it, and, you know, he's the sort of person that would just do that. So yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, he's amazing. He's such a kind-hearted man, and he's very personable too. And you can just tell in the way that he responds to questions is something that's really, really, it's a really big positive aspect of how he teaches. Like someone will ask a question, he will try and like address it in a super respectful, friendly way, trying to address the questioner rather than just the question. So, and that's important, is when somebody has a question, and they're asking the question, it's not just the question that they have, but they're a person too, and need to think, how do I like reach this questioner and help them to arrive at a place that might be helpful to them. So when Master Sauer like responds, you like there's so many examples of this where other instructors have responded in different ways, and it just shows the stark contrast between them. For example, I went to say who it was or whatever. I was taking a lesson with another person in the Gracie chain. That's what we've been saying. And I was sitting there, and I was doing looking at the mounted position at the time, and I had I kind of they asked me to put the hand in the collar, and I had like a frog foot, and then they were like, sit on the mount properly, and I was like, ooh, okay, properly, like what do you mean? Like sit on the mount properly, and I was like, ooh, and then so I was like, okay, so he wants me to put my knee down on the ground, so I was like, okay, so and then we went from there. But like the way that I was thinking about it, I was talking to someone about this the other day, and this is not a bad thing on that part, but sometimes we get caught up in the way that jiu-jitsu should be, that we forget the person as well. And you'd be like, that's wrong, right? Or whatever it might be. It might be, do this properly. But when you look at the way Master Sauer does it, he'll be just like, oh, that's really cool, man. You got that foot there, but let's just start from here, so we can start to look and explore this a little bit. That's really cool. We can look at that too, but let's just start here, and I think we can work something out together so that we can help you there. And the way that he does it is kind of like he really talks to the person, and he sees the person, not the move that's going wrong.
Like what you were saying earlier, Cam, it's not conflict, is it? It's not this. It's that yield. It's the but we'll get better together.
Yes, we'll get better together.
You'll still do it my way.
But that's it. But this way, like, people are going to be more receptive. They're going to listen. And this is the heart as well when you think about jiu-jitsu and the way we train. That is the strategy of jiu-jitsu. It's that yield to win. It's that gentleness. It's that pliability. That being willing to listen and to work with what's given to you, and what's in front of you, like whoever that person is. And then when we think about that from a context, somebody, getting back to like the question you had before, somebody walks in the door, and the thing is, you got to firstly think about, okay, this person's here, they've come in for a reason, whatever that reason might be. Maybe they're just like really interested in MMA or watching UFC, or maybe they've heard about it from a friend, or they've seen changes in somebody else, or whatever it is. They've come in, and then our job is to think about, okay, sit down with them and think, it's like, hey man, what brings you in today? Like, what interested you in coming here? And you find that out, you have a look at the person, you get a feeling for like, how jiu-jitsu may help them. Because the benefits of jiu-jitsu, like there's a lot of broad benefits and great benefits to jiu-jitsu. So chances are whoever it is that walks in, they're going to find benefit in some way. Of course, we know that. So it's how do we find that, understand that, and then we have to kind of present to them jiu-jitsu in a way that speaks to them. And that's the key. How do we make what we teach relevant to the person that just walked in the door? And then we have like the mechanical, like physical teaching of jiu-jitsu, which I think is what was part of the question, which is how do you get somebody to apply this kind of approach, this formula to learning and to jiu-jitsu. And I guess this is why, like, I try to give the philosophical aspect to jiu-jitsu first, because that speaks more to the metaphysical benefits, or, like, let's not use that word, to the benefits that are not directly physical, like self-defense and physical, you know, getting fitter. But it speaks to other aspects of your life, social, emotional aspects. So we start with the philosophy, and then we sort of, now that was a really big thing that we, like, a big waffle on that I just did just before, but we can, like, really condense that and just say, look, so this is the problem. So we identify the problem. So the problem is bigger, heavier, stronger, faster, uglier, more athletic person. Because we assume they're stronger than us, and they always will be, we're going to make sure we first understand how not to lose. And then, because we have less physical resources than them, we need to now be very efficient in the way we use our energy. So what we're going to do is, rather than try to beat them, we're going to stay safe, understand how they're trying to beat us, and then we're going to use that action or that energy from them in order to be able to improve the situation for us, submit, get away, disengage, whatever the context of that you're looking at jiu-jitsu with is. And then we just take that and we just go, would you like to see how this works in practice? Right? And then it might just be our first class under the mount, right? Yeah. We're going to teach first. So this is the strategy: survive, yield and utilize, and then secure the next position or disengage, get away, whatever. So under the mount, it might just look like that. And that's how we lay out the process. This is the strategy of jiu-jitsu from this position. So you look at the mount, what's the danger? You identify the danger so you can keep it safe. And then when you keep it safe, now we're going to think about, okay, from this position, we're not going to do anything. We're going to think about what they're going to do. Well, how are they going to react? Yeah. And 9 times out of 10, they try to posture up. They walk their hands in to be able to sit up. You can trap their arm. And so this is now you're kind of bringing it all together in the practical aspect. So you got the theoretical, the philosophical and strategic aspect, and then you bring in the practical aspect to show how it works in practice. And then when we do that, now they get a better feeling for, well, I feel at least, for the wholeness and the beauty of the art, as opposed to just step 1, traps, or step 1, hug, step 2, trap, step 3, trap, step 4. And you, of course, we're going to talk about those steps, but we're going to bring that in a little bit. And then that's kind of how we can sort of introduce it. And then for the process to blue belt, you're going to introduce the same strategy from every position when you're structuring your class. Yeah. And then by the end of that process, you've given them a problem solving sort of process, so that now when they encounter a problem, which could be whatever scenario, you're like, oh, this guy keeps doing this. It's like, okay, how do I keep getting swept from the open guard. This guy keeps putting in this and this, or whatever. And now you're going to just think about, okay, first thing is we need to make the position safe. What's the danger of him of sweeping you? How does the nature of the danger work? Okay, so I need to understand that if he needs that, he needs my knee pointing in, etc. And now we make the position safe. And now we're going to think about, instead of trying to pass from here, so what does he need next? Or what is he going to try? And so it's kind of a problem solving formula that kind of hopefully helps people to kind of get the feeling about the time and the philosophy of it, or the feel.
We ask that. I think we're quite often asking that question, like, at what point do people kind of switch from looking for moves to kind of looking for concepts? But listening to you talk tonight, it's kind of dawned on me that actually there isn't just a point in time. It's a journey where you're just constantly getting better. And Robin uses a great analogy. He talks about, when you're first learning how to read or write, you learn the letters, and you join the letters together, and then you can start to write and join up writing. And I think, listening to you just that, say that again, Rob.
You end up that you can then have a conversation with someone. That's the key part.
Yeah, no, exactly. So I think I don't necessarily know that there's a point in time where concepts make sense, but I just think that everything becomes more kind of automatic, if that's the right word. And I guess really the message for me tonight is that jiu-jitsu just gets better and better. It just gets more and more fun. But the one question that did spring to mind, Cam, as you were just describing that, is when you're teaching people for the first time and when they're new in, do you find it's easier to teach those concepts when and you give them the scenarios of the, you know, the bad guy on the streets, because the indicators are so much more kind of real and pronounced, right? Versus sometimes it doesn't make sense when you're doing jiu-jitsu versus jiu-jitsu, where it's a lot more subtle.
Yeah. That's a great point, man. And it's, so the reason that, so you made two good points there. So like one of them was about like the relevance to the person, right? So when someone walks in and the other one is about the reality of like realizing that there's something lacking, or that you need something, or that I don't know how to react in that situation. And of course that speaks to relevance too. But when we talk about the relevance, it's when somebody walks in, how do you make jiu-jitsu relevant to them and their situation? And for most people, the context in their mind of coming into a martial arts school or about self-defense in general is self-defense, right? It's the context that they're coming in for is like, you know, oh, I want to learn how to defend myself, like on the street. Quite super rarely, like almost never, especially you will have people who come in to do trials who've done jiu-jitsu elsewhere before. But somebody who comes in is like, oh, you know, like, I don't know anything about jiu-jitsu, but I heard about Gordon Ryan. Like, and you'll be like, I've never heard about this before. Like somebody come in and say, I know the sport of jiu-jitsu. Yeah. And then you see to that context, unless they've already done jiu-jitsu and they're already hooked on jiu-jitsu and they're just looking for a new place to train, or like they're on holiday or whatever, they're on holiday, they come on holiday. So, but that's the idea. So that's exactly why you would speak to that context, or that self-defense aspect, is because you want to make it relevant to that person. And then the other thing that sometimes we can think about, which might be helpful for some people too, is a lot of people are not comfortable. Like there's a huge part of the population who might not be comfortable with the emotional or the physical kind of things that they're going to experience when they try jiu-jitsu. So and that will affect on how you introduce them to jiu-jitsu as well. So if you have somebody who come in, sometimes it's like, especially in Singapore, where they're not used to kind of contact sports and so on. But even like, let's imagine a female who comes in for the first time, and then the first thing that you show her is the mount escape from under the mount, and you're on top of her. This is something that, of course, can be very emotionally, you know, there's a lot of emotional content that could be involved there. You know, somebody strange, I don't really know they're on top of them, it feels uncomfortable. Now, some people would make the argument that that's what you want, so that they realize there's something lacking, right? That something lacking. It's like, oh my gosh, I don't know what to do here. And you could do that, but at the same time, you don't want to have them have such a, you know, bad experience or such a traumatic experience that they're like, nah, jiu-jitsu is not for me. I can't do this. It's awful. I feel awful. So instead, you
start with a wrist grab.
Yes, you got it. Start with a wrist grab. Start teaching your wife how to set her base and, like, you know, drag her around the kitchen a little bit. So you can, so you can. Gee, that sounded very, very misogynistic.
That really did, Cam. Yeah, you're terrible.
No, but everyone, you made a bad assumption. I was assuming that you were in the kitchen doing the dishes. So that the men were. So anyway, let's think about this. That wasn't my assumption. I was just picking a place. But anyway, so just next time you see somebody, your wife or whatever, just sort of teach her a little bit, like, you know, oh man, do you want to know what to do if somebody pulls you, you know? They might say, nah, I don't care. It's true too. But you can set their base and feel a little confident with, oh my gosh, it's the work. What else can you point out? What else? And you just spark their interest in a way that isn't so emotionally traumatic. And now for everybody out there, if you think I dislike women, I do not. Just a heads up. I love women. We're starting to get, it's a bit more awkward again.
Sounds like anyway, worse now, Cam. You're just digging a hole. You're getting deeper. He's like this. He's like disappearing now. Look, he's.
That's not what I mean at all. I was just the situation came to mind. But anyway, but yeah. So you want to have, because we love that person and we want them to experience the benefits that we see. We need to make sure that experience isn't emotionally traumatic for them. And of course it can be like having somebody, I don't know, what's your guys' experience? What was the first time that you had like a sweaty guy on top of you in the jiu-jitsu context?
I tell you, so I won. So when I used to train at this MMA club, there was obviously, because it was an MMA school, and again, not all MMA schools are like this, but there was guys who were training without just training in shorts, not training with a top on, no rash, maybe not a rash guard. And I was rolling with this guy, and he was
rather large.
He was a bigger guy.
What?
He was just, he had a bit of a belly on him, and I hadn't been training very long. And I don't know, it was like my third class or something. And he got me a mount, side control. But because he put his belly over my face, I had to tap out because I couldn't breathe, because it kind of molded around my face.
That's my go-to submission, Pete.
Man, so I had this sweaty, overweight guy with his belly across my face, and there you go. That was my traumatic experience.
What's more concerning is that it didn't put Pete off.
No, I loved it.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. But straight away, it's weird, because straight away it's that, that was obviously a stupid situation, but like straight away I realized that wasn't jiu-jitsu, if that makes sense. I was like, well, there's going to be an easy way out of that. It's just I don't know it yet.
Yeah.
There's got to be a way. There's got to be a way out. Maybe that's because I was lucky and I rolled with a black belt on my first lesson and felt the difference.
Yeah.
Maybe, I don't know, but yeah, that was my worst ever way of getting tapped out.
Maybe you're one of the most stubborn people I've ever met.
Also possibly true.
You just have to be out more, Robin. That's the key. How you doing, man? Robin, I haven't heard from you. What's going on? So what was your worst experience or your most uncomfortable experience?
I don't know, really. I know I've been stuck in people's armpits like this quite a lot of time, and you get like a little nacho-sized triangle to breathe out of. Master Sauer says with his little straw, just find a happy place and just keep going. Guys, but I can't remember the first time.
Yeah. Oh man, that's interesting too. The little happy place, right? And this is one of the biggest benefits of jiu-jitsu, is being able to feel uncomfortable and still find some degree of acceptance of that, and to be comfortable with the situation.
We used to say just try and imagine you're somewhere else. You're on a beach somewhere. But I kind of more recently gone, no, I'm in someone's armpit. This is just where I am. Deal with it. But yeah, like you say, you just end up feeling, comfortable there.
Yeah.
And to Pete's point earlier, it's a case of, I might not have worked it out yet, but there's got to be an easy way out of here, So just give yourself the time to think, and and to your points, Cam, find the safe place, or find a way of making that position safe. Just worry about Pete's just vanished. Is he?
Yeah, he just went out some armpit or something.
I'm wondering if it's the aliens that have just taken him away. So yesterday we were doing a quiz, Cam, on Zoom, and Pete just got massively distracted because he thought there was an alien outside his house, and then he's just gone completely black. I thought he'd been beamed up or something.
I got abducted, didn't you?
Yeah.
Oh dear.
Oh my gosh.
Cam, listen, it's getting very, very late in the UK now, so
Yep.
we might have to call this one to an end. But it's been absolute gold, and I'm sure I'm speaking for Rob and Pete as well when I say this. But it's been a really, really good chat. Great evening for us. Hopefully, we didn't get you out of bed too early.
It's okay. It's probably the earliest I've been up in a while, but I was happy to do it. Like, I love jiu-jitsu too. I had my coffee here. I just got up at it was 7 a.m. I think when we started, and now we're almost like an hour and a half,
Yeah.
Wow. Gee, wow, we have time. I'm sorry for waffling on too much.
No, not at all. The passion comes through massively, loud and clear. And for anybody that listens into this one, they will, if they haven't already got the bug, I'm sure they'll be getting a lot closer to getting the jiu-jitsu bug. So thank you. I'm just remembering one thing that I need to tell you, and it was the last time that I actually saw Master Sauer, and it was in the changing rooms after one of his seminars in Iceland. I'm not going anywhere dodgy, Rob. Don't panic. But we were talking about different people that that we knew in the association, and I mentioned that I trained with you in Singapore, and he said, "Oh, Cam Sobey, awesome mechanics." So I'm sure he's told you that himself before, but he speaks very highly of you when you're not around as well. So if we can leave you with one lovely little gesture, it was the good news from Master Sauer. Great mechanics.
Oh, that's awesome. I appreciate that. Yeah. Oh man, that's when you get little compliments like that, it really kind of makes you feel good. He's a very nice guy too, so he says he doesn't say a bad thing about anybody, or pretty much. So he's and that speaks to him. And then we're just so blessed in our association to have that as the head, as the role model, as the as the guy to follow. Very blessed. And then hopefully we all continue to grow together. I hope your wife gets into it too. I hope, because
no chance. I'm just getting the children involved instead, and I'm just hoping that they grow a little faster so that we can have some proper sparring going on, rather than me just trying not to squash them. But it's good. It's good.
Just get it. The more we all grow together, the better for all of us. So we want to see every school grow, wherever they are. So, and this is the thing, we want to make sure that we, in the jiu-jitsu community, we don't think about competing with each other. We're not competing with each other. Even if somebody's, I don't know, 10 kilometers down the road. Do you guys use kilometers? Yeah, you do, right?
We know what kilometers are, but we do miles.
Oh, you do miles too? Oh man. Right. See,
we running kilometers because it sounds further, but everything else is miles.
Oh man, I thought we must have got kilometers from you guys.
No, you just made that up because it sounds further.
But yeah, even if there's a school just down, in another suburb or two away, they're not your competitor. You don't think of it like that. You think you all have benefits to give, and if we're going to think from another perspective, our competitors, all the other stuff out there. It's not other jiu-jitsu schools at the moment. So, just offer what you have, and if we can all grow together, that's the best outcome, right? So,
absolutely.
Yeah. Hope you guys keep growing over there. I can't wait to meet you guys one day. Maybe you can come out here, visit. I'd love that. Spare the house too here. I got a spare room, so if you guys want to come out and need a place to stay.
The only downside of this podcast, Cam, is that everybody that we've met, we've said that we need to go and visit, and my travel budget now, I just can't keep up with. I'm on a round the world trip now, and it's
yeah.
But if we get to Australia, we'll definitely come and look you up.
Yeah, please do, man. For you guys here, come out, and maybe not the whole audience on the call will be 100, 80 something. Is it 80 something? Or I don't know. I saw on one of the links I clicked, I was like, oh, you got all your guys signed up to this. So that invitation to stay in my house, I can't really extend to everybody at the same time.
We'll all
But
descend on you at the same time.
get out here, come and see us. We're gonna train together. We'll have some fun together too. I'd love to visit you guys one day once everything.
If ever you're passing through, you're 100% welcome.
That's awesome.
Definitely.
Oh, man. Good talk.
Cool.
Go on, then, Pete. So end the live.
I'll stop the live stream
Mr.
there.
Technical.
Yeah, thank you everybody
Right.
for tuning in. I've got to give him a shout out on the live. Dave Porter was on as well and said hi, Cam.
Is
Who was
Dave
that?
Porter?
Dave Porter,
Hey Dave, how you doing, man?
he was there saying hi at the beginning. So yeah, I thought we better. He's
A really good guy. And you guys all trained with Dave before?
yeah,
Yeah.
Man, he's a monster. He's such a nice dude, and like his jiu-jitsu is like so good.
He's like on another level, that man. He's he's
Really?
scared.
Man, and he's such a nice guy. Like when I was in Virginia last time, like he was helping me out too, and man, like so grateful for him too. And when you have like when you have like someone positive like Master Sauer at the top, like a lot of all the students of his that you're gonna meet are gonna be like the same way. And then Dave's proof of that, you know, and he's got the technicality and the character that's so often you can see in professors, students. So yeah, man, good luck to you, Dave. Hope you're well over there, man.
cool. Thanks everybody for tuning in. I'll stop the live stream there, and yeah, we'll see them next time.